Good morning. You are in the workshop on Bible study with Millennials and Generation Z. So if that is the workshop you want to be in, you are in the right place.
Wonderful to know, at least for how many, 45 minutes, I know I'm in the right place. I think I've been struggling with that my whole life. Making sure that I'm in God's will and in the right place. Thank you, Becky.
My name is Becky Miller, and I serve on the pastoral staff at Damascus Road International Church. I've been here in Maastricht for 7 years. Now, I am 37, so I am on the very upper end of the millennial generation. Some people would say that, well, I'm like just on the young side of Gen Z. Some people would still put me in the millennial category. So I feel like I share more cultural characteristics with millennials. And my kids are actually, what are they calling them, Generation Alpha? Like the younger ones than Generation Z. We have a lot of university students involved in our church that fall in the Gen Z or millennial generation. And as I was talking with Virginia, the training consultant, about prepping this workshop, she told me that their experience in the UK is that a lot of their Bible study groups are full of people who are in their 50s and older, 50, 60, 70, 80, even 90, which is fantastic. I think that's great that they have people who are committed to studying the Bible and being in community in that age range. But she said they've had trouble attracting younger people to their Bible study groups. So she said, what are the generational differences that we should be aware of as we're reaching out to younger people? How is it that you all have so many university CBS groups coming out of your church? And what can we do better? Help us understand. So instead of trying to answer that question just myself, I've asked some people who are younger than me to share their experience with you. So I first want to go through some things that Pastor Matt and I have noticed as generational differences. I'm 37, Matt is 35, just turned 36 actually. And we're kind of in that middle range, like we're between the 50-year-olds and the 20-year-olds. So we're kind of standing in the middle looking at both sides and trying to observe what are the generational and cultural differences that you can be aware of as you're approaching Bible study. And I want to share a little of my own experience as well. I'm here in Maastricht because my youth pastor in high school believed in me. And it's truly a direct link. My youth pastor in Missouri, in the USA, is the one who planted Damascus Road 9 years ago in Maastricht. And he invited Pastor Matt to come over. Matt and I were in the same youth group together. We used to lead a Bible study together when I was 18 and he was 16. And we taught junior high kids in Sunday school with each other's siblings. And Pastor Kent believed in us then and empowered us then and believed in us now and invited us to come here and to serve in Maastricht as well. So I wouldn't be here if it hadn't been for his trust in me when I was 17, 18, 19 years old. Pastor Kent really believed what Paul said to Timothy. Don't let anyone look down on you because you're young. That verse was painted on the wall in the youth room in our church. And he really believed that I could teach Sunday school to students who were 5 years younger than me and write my own curriculum. He truly believed that I could lead a small group. And one year we had this big fundraising banquet to earn the funds for a youth building that we were building, and Pastor Kent let me be one of the speakers. I was so nervous. I had my little note cards, and my dad was standing in the back of the room going, Becky, slow down, because I was talking too fast. This is still a problem I have today. I am forcing myself to speak very slowly today, because people tell me still that I speak too fast. But Pastor Kent let me do that, mistakes and all, and I made mistakes. I made terrible leadership mistakes. I said dumb things, I led badly, but I did some good things too, and he helped me grow from my mistakes, and he encouraged me in my successes. And he invited me to come here. And as he moved on to a new church plant, he trusted Matt and me and our leadership team to carry on his church that he had birthed. So give young people responsibility, believe in them, truly give them authority. Because people can tell when you actually trust them and when you don't. They can tell when you're micromanaging them. They can tell when you don't trust them. They can tell when you're double-checking their work. But truly trust them and truly give them responsibility. With mentoring and with oversight, but really give them responsibility. On our elder team at our church, our Council of Servant Leaders, Praveen serves on our Council of Servant Leaders. Praveen is our church treasurer. And we also have, our newest elder is actually even younger than Praveen. She's a woman from Indonesia, and she's going to be our new church secretary. And we also have older people on our church council. We try to have a range of ages. We try to represent the ethnic diversity of our church. We try to have women and men equally serving together on our ministry teams, because we want to represent our international church on our leadership team as well. So really, truly give people responsibility. Our university ministry is run by university students or recent graduates. And we trust them as a team to lead our university ministry. Our small groups are led by students themselves when they lead a student group. And our students also teach younger students. They teach high school students as well. So we really trust them and we really empower them. And that's what I would encourage you to do, is make opportunities for people to serve and watch them rise to the challenge and watch them grow spiritually in what you trust them to do. A few generational differences that Matt and I put together as we were thinking about this. There is, in general, less biblical literacy, at least in Western Europe, certainly in the United States, and I can't speak to all cultures. But we've seen that people are not growing up with knowledge of the Bible being as part of their general knowledge. It's not as much part of school curricula. They're not even growing up in church in as great numbers, so people are just not coming into our Bible study groups with as much biblical literacy. So don't assume anything. You can't just say, well, you know the story of David and Goliath, and move on, and assume they know it. If you're going to reference a Bible story, tell it. And telling Bible stories is great anyway. Get in the habit of telling Bible stories. There's also less cultural normativity of church attendance. People don't go to church as a matter of habit every Sunday. We probably have 150 people who would call Damascus Road their church home right now, but our average Sunday attendance is about 80. So people who consider themselves faithful, regular parts of our church don't come every Sunday, and that's just very normal. Some people feel it's too much to attend small group every week. But we're finding that people really get into the community of their small group, and they love it, and they embrace it, and they do want to be there every week. And there is a core of people who are faithfully part of our church every Sunday. But don't expect that it's natural for them to attend a Bible study or for them to go to church. People travel more. They're more globally minded. People are more mobile now. People don't expect to always grow up in one country and stay there, but they may study abroad. Or during university, they might take a gap year somewhere else. People expect that they can look for a job in another country and be more globally mobile. So don't expect that you'll have people with you for as long of a time. But be looking for people who are migrants, who are coming through for a short time in your church and in your Bible study groups. Embrace them. Be a home for them. One of the best things you can do for people is offer them a family when they're away from their own family. And that will draw people in, even if they're not quite interested in the Bible, but they just like the community, and offer that to people. And nothing is taboo. Things that you would not have spoken about in church in previous generations, that's not going to fly anymore. We want to know honestly, what are you struggling with? We don't want to see a pastor or a priest or a ministry leader who is perfect, because we know you're not perfect. I know I'm not perfect. They know I'm not perfect. I know the younger people that I lead see my mistakes. It's better for me to just own up to them than to try to hide them. So don't hide things. Don't be uncomfortable talking about awkward topics. One of our unofficial church mottos is, we embrace the awkward at Damascus Road. Because when you put inexperienced people behind a microphone or in a leadership role, awkward things will happen. Just expect it and just roll with it. But be willing to talk about sex, be willing to talk about sexuality, be willing to talk about science, be willing to talk about mental illness, be willing to talk about grief and emotions and divorce and messy stuff in people's lives. No topic should be off limits in church. Because we don't just want to teach people sanitized religion, but we want to show people how Jesus is the hope in every difficult situation in our lives. Matt and I have gotten flack for this for speaking too openly about sex and mental illness and abuse. We've gotten a lot of flack for talking about abuse openly in our church, but we want it to be very clear that our church is a safe place for abuse survivors. And the more that people share their stories openly, the more that other people who have suffered know that our church is a safe place for them. So talk about these things. We know there are hurting people. So be open about it. So those are a few of the generational differences I've noticed, areas that you can be aware of as you're stepping into being more open to having young people lead in your community Bible study groups or your churches. So I'm going to hand over to them, and each of them is going to share their story and experiences with community Bible study, and then we're going to open it up to your questions.
Hi. So the first speaker, I'm Praveen. I'm from India, so I'm going to try to keep my story short. So I grew up in Oman, though, in the Middle East. And there's an Indian community there, and so I grew up in my Indian community. And it's a going to church there. The church is a Syrian background church. It's called the Mar Thoma Church, which means from Thoma, Thoma being St. Thomas. So legend goes that St. Thomas came to Kerala, where I'm from in India, and brought Christianity there. And that's how the church came out. So I grew up in such a church, and we had Sunday school, we kept studying the Bible, and I was like, oh, this is cool, I'm learning the Bible. And that was something I really looked forward to every day as I was growing up. And then I left to go to university, and that's when I got challenged. I was asked questions about faith and about science because I was doing engineering, and there were people who were like, but God doesn't fit in with science, God doesn't fit in with this. And I was like, I know God is true, I just don't know the answer to your question. And to me, it didn't strike me that the Bible, I can find the answer in the Bible. Because I learned the Bible and I was like, the answer is not there. Or I thought I'd learned the Bible, and the answer wasn't there. And I was never asked the tough questions in Sunday school, which makes sense. I mean, I was a kid, so I guess I wasn't asked then. But also, I feel I was looking for a way that I was empowered to look through the Bible myself and search for these questions, answer these questions, and find out people I can talk to, common ground that I can share, common words that I can use. After coming here, I learned about apologetics because there was someone at church here who was interested in apologetics, found a space to learn about it, and wanted to share that with everyone else. And it was things like that that you learn as you come into a community where you have Bible study, where people are open about studying the Bible. And that's what I found here. So I came to Maastricht 2.5 years ago for my master's. So I did my master's here. And when I came, one of the first things I heard at church was, we have Bible study. And I was like, sounds like Sunday school. Maybe I'll skip it for this semester, go for it next semester. But on the other hand, they also said it's community Bible study. And I was like, there's a community aspect. So, I'll just try it. I know university is busy, but I'll still try it. I'll go for it. And I'm so glad I did. Because yes, it was Bible study, but it was also about community. And my first small group leader, Ashna, it was just amazing. She's this very quiet, calm person who would just sit and listen to you. And I just noticed afterward that almost all the small groups, she didn't say much. She was just sitting there. We were doing all the talking. She was encouraging all of us to talk, except when she did the wrap-up. So that was really beautiful because she really encouraged us to have that open space and comfortable space to grow. And through that, I learned to, challenge my ideas about the Bible and what I believed from the Bible, and to be able to learn from others around me. And then, at the end of the semester, I think it was Becky who asked me first, and Ashna was also pushing to become a small group leader, and I was like, yeah, you know what, yeah, that's true. It's not because of my ability that I'm doing this, but on the other hand, it's to create the space for others, because that's something I really valued as well, coming from India to a place which is so different, just having people who are willing to just welcome you into the family and willing to have this community with you. So I wanted to build that, and I think I've led 3 small groups now, over 3 different semesters, and all 3 of them, the one thing I've continually heard is that this feels like family. This feels like a place where we can share anything we want. And I think that is what a lot of us are looking for, because one thing I learned is different cultures. We have people from all over the world coming, so they have different ideas. Like, this is the famous example, controversial example we had in small group, which was Demon Night, which is the idea about demons. Like, do they exist? Do we call them demons or not? And it was interesting to see. Half of the room was like, no, demons were an old idea. Half of the room, there was a few people from Asia or from Africa who were like, no, demons exist very much today. And there were people from there, including me, who was like, I'm not entirely sure. So it was good to have that conversation, and just have people sitting together saying, okay, you believe what you believe, I believe what I believe, but we're going to look at the Bible now and see how does that work out. And having that space to talk about it. And it was things like that that really make me value small group all the more. And now I'm in the Lucille small group. And it is different there as well. Every semester is different. You have different people coming in and different ideas, and you just have the space to share. So yeah, this was small groups for me.
Hello, so I'm Rita and I'm 19, and my experience with Bible study. So the first time I came to Maastricht, I wasn't a Christian, and I became Christian after coming to Damascus Road and getting the only answer I needed, which is what is Christianity, for the first time. And I did not read the Bible, or more like I just read it, but it didn't make sense. So I was like, okay, maybe joining a small group would be a good idea, and I could learn with others how to read the Bible and to study the Bible. And I joined Praveen's small group, and it was amazing to be there, being out of my home country for the first time, and having these people around me. They were my family. Literally, I loved being there. Not because I really loved doing the homework or the Bible study for the first time, but because they were always there for me. They were always there to help me study, to encourage me to do my Bible study homework and to participate and to learn how to read the Bible. And this is one thing I think CBS has done a good thing in breaking down how to read the Bible and how to study the Bible. And then after this, I became a Bible study leader because Lucille and Praveen encouraged me. So this is one thing that Damascus Road is doing, making disciples to make disciples. They made them disciples, and they're making me a disciple to make other disciples in my Bible study group. And one of the things that have been amazing is how much they believed in me and trusted in me. I had not much knowledge about the Bible, but even this, they encouraged me. I was afraid to do it because I was like, well, I don't know much about the Bible, so why would I take the role to lead other people into learning the Bible? But it's not about knowing, because we're also learning as we go. So they gave me this opportunity, and I think I have grown to become more independent. I was guided into it before, and now I think I'm becoming more independent into learning how to teach other people and learn with other people how to read the Bible and study the Bible, and yeah, growing my faith and share the word around the people in the community. So that is my experience.
All right, good morning. I'm Lucille, I'm from Portugal, and when I was at home in Portugal, I attended a Catholic church where studying the Bible is not like the main thing. However, one day, I remember I was just walking around in Lisbon, and there was a man who was evangelizing, and he was like, hey, do you want to join a Bible study group? I was like, sure. And then I joined, and that was like my first experience with Bible study. And I really, really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed like going each week and learning more about the Bible. And when I came here, and I ended up in Damascus Road, the first Sunday, same as Praveen, oh, we have Bible study groups. I was like, yes, okay, I'm joining. So I went, and I was also in Ashna small group, like Praveen, and I quickly realized that although it was like Bible study, it was a lot about community and being a family, and I think that's really what is super important in, I don't know, student age, because we're, especially here, like we're all away from home, away from our families, and we need a family. Like we need people to go to talk to just share everything with. And I think that's really what the small groups here do for the students, and I think it's really important. And also something that I've learned, it's now my 3rd year here, is that every single small group is different, like so different. For instance, the first small group was led by Ashna, and then I attended another small group where we had the 3 leaders, and we would have dinner together. And then my small group last year, I was asked to lead, because in Damascus Road we have this thing that people come, stay for a couple of years and leave, so we need to very quickly replace the leaders. And Beck and Matt, they just do a great job at that. They're like, hey, do you want to like lead a small group and we'll train you? I'm like, okay, sure. And I did that, and in the first couple of months, I was paired up with Sky, who was more experienced. She had already led a small group, but then she left. So then I needed another co-leader, so I was like, hey, Sky, do you want to help me lead the Bible study group? And then we started leading together. And also that year, Jessica shared that Marie and Liège were starting a student group there as well. And Jessica was like, hey, do you want to go and train them? And I was like, because I speak French, that was like the whole reason. I was like, sure. So then I went, and a couple of times, just two actually. And it was really good. So I've really seen people, I don't know, just asking me to do stuff because I could. And I think it's really good to keep in mind that anyone can do it, and that's something that I really knew when I look at my small group. I'm like, you can do a wrap-up, you can facilitate, would you like to? And often they're, I don't know, afraid, uncomfortable, whatever, but they try it, and that's all that we ask, because that's what matters. They try it, and then you're like, actually, I might do it again. And that's really important, I think. And yeah, I think that's kind of what I want to share. I don't know, I have notes, but let's see. I'm going to check, because I often forget stuff. Yeah, something else that I just really like about, well, CBS, is that we get to share during the discussion, like, our different opinions. And I think that's really important here as well, when we have people from everywhere, as it has already been mentioned. But we all see things in a different light, and I think it's really nice to get to understand that, and that really, I don't know, broadens our viewpoint on the Bible and on who God is, and I think that's really good. And I also wanted to share that in small group, like, it's not even just about developing talents of, I don't know, leading a discussion or doing wrap-ups or whatever, but especially, or like also this year I have a really fun example, which is that in my small group this year we have dinner together before we actually do the Bible study. And every week we have two people who just, well, say, hey, I'll cook. And it was really nice because this year we had a young man who had never actually cooked, and he is now like super good and just like enjoying cooking for everyone. You know, he wants to cook every single week. So it's also about encouraging people to grow in so many different aspects of their lives. So yeah, that's what I wanted to share.
Good morning, everyone. If you don't know me yet, my name is Renske. I'm a Dutchie, but I'm not from here. I'm from up north. So when it became time to, get a studies, I like, oh, let's just study Japanese. This was the only place in the Netherlands, so here I am. The first thing I was like trying to find when I came here is like, okay, I'm in a new city, in a region I don't know anybody. I need church, I need friends, I need Bible study. Because where I'm from, I was very lucky to have like good youth pastors. They really chanced us, they had good discussions, and I was like, when I get here, I want to continue that. So I knew the message road was here, I just didn't know where it was because I forgot the address. So I actually went to a Dutch church first, and the pastor's son, he was in the message road, so he redirected me to the message road, lucky him. So yeah, here I am. I came to the message road, I really liked it, and I was like, this is where I need to be, this is my new family. So I kind of stuck around for the past 4 years. The first couple of years I just attended small group as a member with Sky actually. She had been my small group leader for the first 2 years. And then, as Michelle mentioned, Sky left and I was just kicked out of university. I had plenty of time. Michelle came over to me, he's like, hey girl, Sky just left, do you want to be my co-leader? And I heard him myself say, yeah, sure. And then I went home. And then I thought, oh my god, what did I do? I was like, I have no experience, I have no skills, I have no leading experience, never done a group before. And if you know me in the past, like I was really, really shy. Like I could not give presentations. If as many as like 2 people were looking at me, I would like, oh man, I need to hide. So I was thinking like, what do I do? So I just prayed about it, and I talked with my sister, and she's like, girl, just pray for it. Like, make a list, everything you're missing, pray for it, God's gonna provide. So the first thing I did, like, God, I need boldness because I'm gonna lead a group. So yeah, just over like the past 2 years, leading small groups, I really noticed that God is going to provide. He's going to equip you. He's going to teach you everything you need to know. So, you know, if you're searching for young leaders or you are a young leader yourself and you can be like, oh, I'm too young, I have no experience, I have no skills, don't worry, he's going to give it. And if you don't, just ask, because he's going to give you more than you ask for. Yeah, and what I really like, as especially new leader, is the CBS material we get, because they really like a clear structure. So it's like, okay, here's a chapter, go read chapter, make those questions, you get like a general understanding of what's going on here, what are the main points, what's the main message. They have like additional information afterwards, so you can read through that to get more cultural understanding, more context, and you can also do research. So it really helped me to get going as a leader and just like start to understanding the lessons. And then every now and then I would just go back to Lucille because she has more experience and like, hey, I made this wrap up. What do you think about it? Maybe like adjust something or just get some feedback, you know, because it's always good to learn from people who have been in this profession longer than you have. So I really enjoyed that about both small groups and the Damascus. And what I really like is that all small groups, they're different, but all of them kind of like small families by themselves. You know, like people, they come there, they feel safe, they feel like sharing, you growing together, learning together, just having fun together. And people start to trust each other. And then when they struggling with something, I just tell them, you know, we might be the same age, I might be even younger than you are, but if you have problems, just come to me. I'll listen, I try to help you. If I can't, I'll find somebody to help you. And you just start talking, and then you realize that so many other people in the group have the exact same problems as you have. And they're like, oh, I didn't know you were struggling with the same thing. And then everybody felt like, oh, we can't share our burdens because we don't want people to be burdened by our problems. Or we feel like it's our business, not your business, so why should we share? And Ruth and I, we were like talking about this in a smart group, and we really encourage our people, like, you know, if you have problems, tell the rest of the group. We're gonna encourage you, we're gonna pray for you, we're gonna help you. You know, you're not alone in this. And everybody really felt like this is what I needed, because they're all from different countries. They don't know the Netherlands, they don't know the people, the culture. Most of them who are new here, they're like, oh, I just feel so lonely, so depressed, I'm kind of like missing my home, I'm missing my culture, my family. And for them, they get this small community, learning God, getting close to God, or reconnect to God, and then making friends in process. That's really important for them to kind of like settle down in the city and just have a great time and not having to worry about or missing their home so much. So I see small groups kind of like settling down students, learning to grow together and get close to God and just have like a great time. So like a couple of things I would just encourage you, if you're like talking to new leaders or trying to find new leaders, just tell them, like, you know, if you're starting, just pray. Always just pray. If you're like preparing a wrap up, if you don't know what to do, if you need skills or need to learn things, just pray for it. God somehow is going to provide. Also, tell them to trust God. You might not know what He's doing right now, but later on you can turn around and you can be like, that's so amazing. I never knew this. He was doing all these things in my life. Just work with what CBS is providing you. It's really good start just to get going. You don't really need additional leader skills or research skills. Just use what they're giving you. And yeah, just be willing to step out and be a leader. And you know, they're not going to look down on you for being young or being younger than they are, because they're like, oh, I'm just glad somebody's here willing to do a small group I can be part of. So yeah, just don't be afraid to do that.
We have about 10 minutes for Q&A, so I'm going to put a microphone down here and a microphone down here. So please ask your questions and we'll try to answer them. We probably should, actually that's a good idea. So that the camera can pick up the question, if you wouldn't mind just coming and standing here, asking your question on the microphone and then sitting down. Sorry.
Don't be afraid.
I thought I saw you. Questions? I bet Janet has a question.
I'm trying to come up with one.
Auntie?
Lucille, I'd like to hear the story. You were in our Europe conference like 2 years ago. Or 1 year ago, you were sharing about that. So I'd like to hear about that process of kind of like if you could tell that, okay, Jessica, Becky, and you kind of like the chain of disciples. It's not a question but a comment, because you really impressed us, and I'm so pleased to see how you've been growing in your leadership skills and getting, growing in that. And so if you could just quickly, if Becky, this is for you, just tell the chain of command, kind of like how you got discipled, and then if you could, Lucille, what has been happening even during the last year, or since we met last time in CBS conference.
So Jessica invited me to her CBS group. I was already running the small groups at Damascus Road, and we used multiple different types of Bible studies, but nothing that was really getting people into studying the Bible verse by verse for themselves. So about 4 years ago, Jessica invited me to her CBS women's group. I loved it. It was exactly what I was looking for myself, for our church, so I made all of our church small groups CBS groups about 4 years ago. And so Jessica trained me and made sure that I got training from Virginia and Veronica and some of the official CBS trainers, so I knew what I was doing as I was passing this on to others. And so I trained a group of disciple makers in our church, and we did first a discipleship course, and then we moved into CBS. So I trained Sarah, and as Sarah was getting ready to leave, she noticed Sky in her group. And so she came to me and said, I think Sky should be the next leader. So she invited Sky. So Sky became a small group leader. And then Sky was Lucille's first, no, Sky was...
Where does Ashna come in?
Right.
She was leading the
Sky and Ashna were leading at the same time. Different groups, I think. And so like that generation of leaders then produced this generation of leaders. So then Lucille, and then Lucille inviting Renska. So I think that's about how it went.
Wow. And then there was, before Jessica, there was Margaret, before
Right.
Margaret. So I'd like you to see the chain of generations. So, as we have been talking about discipleship making leaders, so there have been discipleship making leaders, and
Right.
this is a fruit of a long process. So
Right.
thank you.
Yeah, Margaret trained Jessica
Yeah.
before Jessica even came to our church.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think something that we didn't something that we didn't really mention, but especially last year, so when it was my first year leading a small group, Becky and Jessica had like this whole program of training the small group leaders. So in September we got like a weekly training session about like doing wrap-ups and that sort of things, and that is also why, to be honest, I was like okay with being a small group leader, because I knew that I would be trained, like they were not just like throwing us out there. So that was very reassuring. And then throughout the year, every month we would have another meeting, another training, or another topic to discuss. And this year as well, we continue having monthly meetings. And I think that's really important as well. If you want to put, new or young leaders or whatever, just make sure that they do have a training, because it's very reassuring, and it's also important that we know what we're doing.
Thank you.
And this year, one thing we're adding into that is making sure that they're training each other. Because I want them to not only be leading small groups, but I want them to learn how to train other leaders. Because I believe that all of them have a ministry calling and gifting. They're going to serve the kingdom of God for the rest of their lives, and they're going to be training other leaders, and I want them to start that now. So this past month, Rita and Renska led the training for our small group leaders, including leaders who are more than twice their age. And they did an amazing training on how to build community in your group. They led us through a Bible study, they had visuals and activities. It was great, they did a wonderful job. And Lucille's is coming up next. So she's prepping her training for the leaders. So that's another thing you can do, is not only train them to lead their groups, but train them to lead other leaders.
I do have a question. And this is not a criticism. It's just that I've heard actually everything that you said applies to my generation as well. There's no difference in what you've shared that's any different than what I've been taught my entire life. And I'm 63 years old, so I'm not even faintly Gen Z. So as a almost pre-baby boomer, what is your advice to a guy like me who wants to involve people of your age that's different than what I've been doing, because I do much the same thing. I invite people to come. My big thing my entire life has been discipleship. And so describe to me, if you can, what makes that process different for your generation than mine? Okay, is that a fair question?
That's a great question. The first thing, I'll give one point and then I'm going to pass the mic down to them. The first thing I noticed when we talked this through with Virginia is there's not really a difference in the skills that you use. Yeah. The difference I've seen, and this is more for churches than CBS, but perhaps it's the same in CBS groups, is the older people truly giving the younger people a place. I've seen some churches be hesitant to really put young people in leadership or to put them up front on Sunday mornings. They're afraid to trust them. So that's the first thing I would say is make space for young people and trust them with the responsibility.
For me, one thing would be that, so now we have Facebook, we grew up with Facebook, Google, now there's Snapchat, I don't know what that is, but Snapchat, just because I don't use it, but Instagram. So the idea is that we have so much information and we hear so many questions. So for us, yes, we believe what we believe, but at the same time, you go and talk to some other person and they have an entirely different view. So it is important to incorporate that in your training as well, just having a space for that, because it's not as simple as, oh, you said something and now I'm going to look for it, which is how, I think when I started my Sunday school, that's how it was. But then by the time I was in 10th grade, that's when Orkut and Facebook, if anyone knows Orkut, that came out. And by then it was more questions. It was not listening. It was more about, no, I think you're wrong. I think what you're saying is wrong with this like that. So there is all these questions coming up. And being ready to have a space where those questions are welcome, I think that is what, that's something maybe that's unique to the generation I'm coming from.
So what I noticed in the Netherlands, I'm not sure about other countries, is that religion, or let's say Christianity and church, is not really in any part of our culture anymore. It's not something we grew up with, it's not something we get taught in school, and what little we do get in school is more like, oh, we have like 4 mainstream religions like Buddhism, Hinduism, Christianity, and Islam, and for Christianity the only thing was like, oh, there's Catholic, there's Protestant, and that's about it. So a lot of people from my generation, a lot of younger people in the Netherlands, when they're thinking about church, they're thinking about just like this old Catholic church building with wooden benches, you're sitting there, you're not allowed to talk, you're not allowed to dance, you're not allowed to do anything, just sit there, listen. There's a choir doing the songs, and that's about it. That's their whole idea of church. So if you're trying to like get young people to church, you have to make sure that, you know, church is a whole lot different than what you have in your head. It's fun, it's great, you can make friends. There are way more young people, or people your age, actually attending church than you really realize. We have bands, you can participate in a band. If you like dance, you can do dance. If you like theater, you can do theater. And in church, there's place for young people, you know, that you can be part of, like I said, you can be part of the ministry team, you can be part as a leader, you could do something with the entertainment or worship, whatever you feel like God's calling you to do, but you have to make sure that the church has, let's say, modernized a little bit as well, and that it's okay or it's good for young people to be there and to find friends there, because a lot of them just have a wrong image of church, and you feel like, if I go to church, all I'm going to see is old people or children, I don't fit in there, I'm not going to find friends, I'm not having any like peers to hang around with to challenge me, to grow up with, or to like learn together. So you really have to like make sure that the image they have of church changes to what it is now.
You all have a 10-minute break now, and we'll be sticking around if you want to come up and ask us some questions during that break. So 10 minutes before the next workshop, we'll be running this again. And then at 11 o'clock, we invite you to come next door to the MEC, the convention center where our church meets. So if you go out the front entrance of the hotel, you'll have the parking lot. Go to your right, go in the big doors that say MEC, just right across the parking lot. You'll have to walk all the way through the convention center because we're on the far side of it, but follow the electronic signs, Damascus Road this way. You'll probably be able to just follow the Exodus crowd through over there. But we'd love for you to join our church service this morning. You'll see Rita and Praveen on leading worship this morning. And Kim's going to share a God story so our church can hear what CBS is doing, just as you all have been able to hear what our church is doing and see that beautiful relationship that God has brought together between CBS and Damascus Road. And we'll be doing a taster session for CBS during the service because we want more of our church to sign up for Bible study groups. So that'll be our big push today. And we hope it's an example for you if you're trying to get CBS groups started in a church like we're doing. This is one way you can do that. So we hope to see you at 11 o'clock over at Damascus Road.
Thank you.